Happy Saturday. Can't wait to share what I'm learning, what I've learned about emotions, interpreting negative emotions. Oh my goodness. This book that I'm listening to, it's just whipping me. This book is getting me together, and I have to share in real time what I've learned and what I'm learning about emotions, because we tend to, run from our emotions, avoid our emotions. We don't understand our emotions. Like, why do I feel like this? Why am I angry? Why am I sad? Why am I jealous? Why, right? So let me get into it. So emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, assess, and use and control our emotions. Okay. Understanding our emotions is a key part of understanding ourselves. And when we understand our feelings, we can gain an understanding of how they affect our minds, our bodies, and vice versa. Our mind and body and spirit are all connected. They're all affected by each other in one way or another. Okay. So now let me get into the different types of emotions, negative emotions. Okay, so the first emotion is anger. Okay, anger is a beautiful transformative emotion. It's often mischaracterized by its shadow side, aggression, and we try to resist it. It's healthy to be angry, and anger can show us an important aspects of who we are and what we care about. Okay, for example, anger shows us where boundaries are. Anger also helps us identify what we find to be unjust. Ultimately, anger is trying to mobilize us to initiate action, okay? Anger is often the peak state we reach before we actually change our lives, because anger is not intended to be projected onto someone else. It's motivation to help us change. So anger is not intended to be projected on someone else, although people do this, right? You may have been a casualty of someone else's anger, or maybe somebody else was a casualty of your anger. All right. So anger is not to be projected. That's not what it's for. It's not to be projected onto someone else. When we don't see it as such, we tend to bury it. And this is when anger tends to cross over to aggression. Okay. So when we don't tend to it, it will cross over to aggression. When we take that energy out on those around us, as opposed to using it to change our lives, instead of being afraid of anger, we can use it to make change in us and around us. So anger, when you're angry, it's for you to change something about you, not to project it on other people, right? We don't know this, right? And sometimes we do it unconsciously. Okay, so the next emotion is sadness. Sadness is normal and correct response to a loss of something you very much love. It's an emotion that often comes up in the aftermath of disappointment. This could be a loss of a relationship or a job, or the idea of what you thought your life would be like. Sadness only becomes a problem when we don't allow ourselves to go through the natural stages of grief. Sadness doesn't often release itself all at once. In fact, we often find it happens in waves, which strikes us at unexpected times. We don't need to feel embarrassed or wrong for needing to cry or feel down or miss what we no longer have. Crying at appropriate times is one of the biggest signs of mental strength, as people who are struggling often find it hard to release difficult feelings and be vulnerable. Now, good morning. Sometimes when people feel sad, this is what I hear often. I don't want to cry. I'm trying not to cry. And crying is okay. It's okay to be sad in those moments and cry in those moments, because what happens, we start repressing these things, right? And then all of a sudden something happens, and then we just, everything comes out. So it's okay to at those appropriate times for crying. It's okay to cry. It's okay to cry. It's normal. Actually, it's normal to cry. It's you're supposed to be able to express yourself in a healthy way. Okay, so then the next one is guilt. Okay, so guilt tends to affect us more when more of what we didn't do, not what we did do. In fact, the people who suffer the most with guilt aren't actually guilty of something terrible. People who commit heinous crimes don't often feel remorse. You feel bad that you could have done wrong by someone. It's a good sign in itself. However, guilt requires us to look deeply at what behaviors, if any, we feel badly about. And as well, we feel badly about, if any, as well as what we may have done that was not in our best interest. Guilt is often an emotion we carry from childhood and project it onto our current circumstances when we felt as though we were burdens to those around us. Guilt. That guilt is real. I used to think crying showed weakness, and especially in front of people, but it's okay to cry. Yes, I used to think that too, because people told me, don't cry, don't cry, don't cry. And then I was like, I ain't supposed to cry. And it's just like, no, crying is normal. It's okay to cry. Okay, so the next one we have is embarrassment. It's when we know we didn't behave in a way we're proud of, and other people can never make us feel as embarrassed as we make ourselves feel. When we are truly and completely confident that you are doing the best you can with what you have in front of you, you stop feeling embarrassed all the time, right? You're doing the best you can with what you have in front of you, with the information you have. Next, we have shame. So shame is it's a shadow side of embarrassment. This is a natural, occasional feeling of being embarrassed turned into a way for us to completely condemn ourselves as human beings and begin to see ourselves as worthless and invalid. When we do not process the feeling of embarrassment, it tends to turn into something far darker. So when you don't express these feelings, they turn into something else. When you don't express these, when you don't express these feelings, they turn into something else. Okay, so we're supposed to release these things, right? Emotional intelligence. We're supposed to release these emotions, okay? Naturally. Let's see. Next, we have jealousy. So jealousy, y'all. Jealousy was a big one for me. When I heard this right here, I was like, ooh, guilty of it. And I'm going to share as soon as I finish explaining this jealousy. So jealousy is a cover-up emotion. It presents as anger or judgment when it's sadness and self dissatisfaction. If you want to know what you truly want out of life, look at the people you're jealous of. No, you may not want exactly what they have, but the feeling you are experiencing is the anger that they are allowing themselves to pursue it while you are not. And when we are jealous, we judge other people's accomplishments. We are siding into a shadow function when we use our jealousy to show us what we would like to accomplish. We begin to recognize the self-sabotaging behavior and get ready to commit to what we actually desire. When we see someone who has what we really want, but we are suppressing ourselves to pursue it, we must also condemn it in them so we can justify our own course of action. Instead of this, we can see what we would also like to create. So a lot of times, that was a mouthful, I know. A lot of times when you are jealous of someone, it's not that you want what they have. You're just maybe disappointed in yourself that you don't have that, because you know that that's something that you could do as well. And I'm going to give you my real life example. So when I was becoming a coach, once I got my first certification, I stopped. And then other peers who we all started the same course at the same time, they were getting their master certification. And I was like, oh, they make me sick. Right. But it wasn't them. I was mad with myself because I had stopped myself. Right. I could have got my master certification as well, but I stopped me. And a lot of times you say people be jealous of me. I don't understand how they jealous of me. It ain't that they're jealous of you. They're jealous. Let's reframe that. I was just mad with myself that I had stopped myself because I started with them. And I stopped me. So a lot of times you looking at them like, man, I'm dissatisfied with me. So jealousy is basically I'm dissatisfied with me. It's not even about the other person. So we just have to look within ourselves. Like, why am I jealous? Why am I feeling a little jealous about this right here? What's going on with that? Yes, and you right, comparison is the thief of joy. It was stealing my joy. I was like, why am I supposed to be happy and I'm not? So it is real. It's a real thing. But now that you know what it is, now you can let me check in. So these feelings, all of these negative feelings are normal. So let's check in and let's do something different, right? Let's investigate. Because all it is something I got to see within myself. That's all the stuff that makes us mad or angry. All this stuff is about us. It's not about anybody else. It's about us. Okay, then we have resentment, okay? It's about the accomplishment that can be. Yeah, they could be. You could be out here and you could be looking like you winning, right? And then other people, they always doing it. And they just mad because they have not done the things that they know they could do. I'm telling you, it is real. Resentment. When we resent people, it's often because they didn't live up to the expectation of what we had in our minds. Okay. Resentment in some ways is like projected regret. Instead of trying to show us what we should change, it seems to tell us what other people should change. However, other people are under no obligation to live up to our ideas of them. That one right there, child, resentment. You want somebody to be what you want them to be. And they can only be who they are. That's it. In fact, the problem is that we have an unrealistic expectation that someone was supposed to be as we expect they should be, or love us exactly as we imagine they would. When in fact, the resentment of what when we're faced with resentment, I'm reading too fast. When we're faced with resentment, what we instead of must do is reinvent our image of those around us. We have perceived that they have wronged us. Other people aren't here to love us perfectly. They are here to teach us lessons, to show us how to love ourselves and them better. And when we realize the ideas about who they should be when we realize the ideas about who they should be, we can see them for who they are and the role they're meant to play in our lives. That right there. This one was a big one for me. I was like, oh my God. A lot of times when you resent people because they're not what you expect them to be. They're not living up to your expectations that they don't even know about, that they don't have to live up to. That's not their job. Their job is not, other people's job is not to live up to your expectations of them. It's not. Okay, so then we have regret, okay? Much like jealousy, regret is another way we show ourselves not what we wish we could have done in the past, but what we absolutely need to create going forward. Most people regret what they did not do more than what they ever did. This isn't coincidence. Regret isn't trying to make us feel bad that we didn't live up to our own expectations. It's trying to motivate us to live up to them going forward. And it's trying to show us what it absolutely is imperative to change in the future and what we really care about experiencing before we die. So you didn't travel when you was younger and now you have regret, and now regret is showing you that you should travel now, right? So you didn't travel when you were younger. Regret is showing you that you should start traveling now. All right, now we're going to chronic fear. Chronic fear. When we cannot stop returning to fearful thoughts, our internal response systems are underdeveloped or sidelined by trauma. The only way to get over it is to get through it. If it happens, it happens. And when you say this, it takes back your power. If it happens, it happens. Right? If you look at every situation in life like that, you know what? If it happens, it happens. I'm going to be okay. Our internal guidance system whispers until it screams. If you continue not to take action, the siren will get louder. If you continue not to take action, the siren will get louder and louder and louder. Okay? So these emotions are trying to tell you something. They are trying to tell you something. You must pay attention. And that's it. That's all the emotions. So I'm going to run back. I'm not going to read all of them again. So you have anger. All right? And then you have sadness. And you have guilt. And you have embarrassment. And you have shame. and you have jealousy, and you have resentment, and you have regret. So just check in with yourself. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this? It's not about anybody else. It's about you. This is from a book called The Mountain Is You, because it's us. The only people that hold us back is us. The only people that are in our way is us. Self-sabotage. We self-sabotage unconsciously. We do these things, not even aware of that we're doing it. So I do want to share a couple more things when they were talking about the subconscious mind and how it kind of holds us back, and we just don't even realize it. So I'm gonna give you some. It's one example of something that reminded me of me. Something that reminded me of me. So how your subconscious mind is trying to communicate with you through your behaviors. For example, going back to a relationship that broke you, right? How many times have we went back and forth to a relationship that broke us, to someone that broke us, right? So this could be a former lover or a former friend. Your subconscious mind is trying to tell you that it could be time for you to evaluate your childhood relationships. If you find comfort in someone who hurt you, that's usually there's usually a reason, okay? The way you're self-sabotaging, attracted to people who are are too broken to commit to you in a real way. What your subconscious mind wants you to know, you're not too broken, that no one will want you. When you begin to recognize you're worthy to be committed to, you will start choosing partners who do just that. That's why I said it's important that we check in and do our work, right? Figure out, why am I feeling like this? What is this feeling trying to tell me? And often we run from triggers because we think triggers are just, oh my God, I got to stay away from my triggers. No, your triggers are an indication that you need to do an investigation. Your triggers are an indication that you need to do an investigation. So think of your trigger as your check engine light. Why? Because I don't know about y'all. I don't like no lights on in my car, not even no gas light. So why is this light on? I need to find out what's going on. So what do? You're going to find out. They put this thing on there, and it'll tell you like why this light is on, right? So the same way you would take and get your oil change and check your check engine light, that's what you do internally, right? You do that work internally also. So if you find yourself triggered, when I get triggered, I say, oh, let me check in. Let me see, what is this about? What's going on here, right? And sometimes my triggers could be just me getting emotional about something. Like, it's certain movies I could watch, especially if it got like a father-daughter thing in it, and I just get emotional, right? And so that could be, about my abandonment wound or my rejection wound. It's something related to something that's already inside of me, right? That I have maybe just forgot about, right? Because some trauma is so terrible till you can't even remember, right? That's why you got to check in with yourself. And she actually in this book, she took you on a journey of, oh my goodness, it's so good. Let me get to it, because I write down anything that stands out for me that could be helpful for somebody else. So she says this: just because an experience has ended doesn't mean it's over. Just because an experience has ended doesn't mean it's over. If you truly want to let go of a past memory, you must re-enter the memory. And then she went through this technique, and this technique is coaching. That's exactly what it is. And she said to close your eyes and find that feeling in your body that's uncomfortable, and follow the feeling and ask it to show you where it started. Then we want you to take your wiser self to speak to your younger self. Everything is okay. You're okay. I got you. You're going to make it out of this. You're going to be an amazing person. You're doing amazing things. You're going to help people. Your life is a testimony right now, right? So you got to go back. You got to go back to that past, and you got to reframe that thing. You can't change what's the picture, but you can change the way you look at it. You can't change the picture. I can't change that my daddy wasn't there. I can't change that this relationship didn't work out, but I can change the way I look at it. And when you change the way you look at it, your life will change. I'm telling you, I had a coach to take me on this journey before I even became a coach, before I started doing any of these things. That's why I know this stuff works. That works because a coach did that to me. And that's why I became a coach. That's why I started doing this work, because all she did was talk to me, ask me these questions. And I was able to go to my inner child, my inner younger self, and let her know that it's okay. You can't continue to run this show. I love it. I love you, and I got you. Okay? So I got to lead us from here on out. I got us from here on out. You're okay. You made it out of this. You're okay. And I got you. Right? So that's what she meant. That's what she meant when she said, if you truly want to let go of the past memory, you must re-enter that memory and change that frame. Can't change the picture, but you can change the way you look at it. And that's everything. That is everything. I think that's all I had. Your triggers are your guide to freedom. Your triggers are your guide to freedom. Stop running from your triggers. I'm telling you. But I know it could be scary because it's uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable. Change is uncomfortable. Life is uncomfortable. It is. But if nothing changes, nothing changes. It all starts with us, right? You can learn. You can definitely learn from your past. You're right. I'm telling you. I look back on my life right now, and I'm looking at the lessons that I've learned. I did that on a live coach session with Sean Group. It was heavy, but the hug from her was, yes, I'm trying to tell you. I cried like a baby. Yes, you can gain knowledge from the situation. Exactly. I look back on my life. Actually, I was watching something on social media, and you know how you just be strolling. I didn't even have the volume up, but I could see the interaction. It was emotional, and I became emotional. Excuse me. These two young ladies was at work, and they were embracing one another. They were crying and stuff. I don't know what was going on, but I thought about a time when I was in my I was in my worst, darkest time. And I got moved to a different area. And I don't know why. I feel like I got moved there for a reason. Because in this area was a pastor, right? So after we have our startup meetings, he would pray. And I would stay there for prayer because I needed it. You know, I didn't know I needed it. All right. I didn't know I needed to be there, but I did. I feel like God just uses people to speak through to us, right? And so throughout my time over there, me and this person had conversation. He poured into me, my goodness. And I know I was over there for a reason, right? I knew that God was using this person to help me in that dark time, right? Everything that's happening in our life is happening for us. Pay attention because God can use scripture. He can use people, confirmation to speak to you, to give you what you need in that moment. He'll never leave you. He'll never forsake you. He's always with you. Thou art with me. And I look back on my life and I'm like, oh my God. He was like pouring into me and I could talk to him. I couldn't talk to anybody else because I didn't trust people. But I could talk to this person. I felt safe. I felt heard. I felt seen. And I felt loved in my most darkest time. And I was over there briefly. I wasn't over there long because eventually they moved me back. But I was over there for a reason. I'm like, as I look back, it's called looking back wisdom, right? As I look back, I'm like, man, I needed that. I didn't know I needed that. Situation leads to just stress, especially if you gain. Yes. Trust words, not man. Exactly. Oh, goodness. Life is always in session. Life is always teaching us, and it's an open book test. He gave us a book. He gave us a manual. Open it because I'm telling you, you can find yourself in the stories, in the scriptures. You can find yourself there. I'm telling you, you can and you will. Oh, that's it. That's all I had. I wanted to share this morning because it has really helped me. And when you're able to know what these negative emotions are, you'll be able to release them, understand them, because they're trying to tell you something. Like it's all trying to tell you something. It is all trying to pay attention, right? So you got sadness, you got guilt, you got embarrassment, you got shame. And like I said, the biggest one for me was the jealousy one. Because a lot of times people don't talk about it. Ain't nobody gonna say I'm jealous. They might not say it, but it be jealous. I'm telling you, because that's what it was for me. But maybe I wasn't calling it jealousy. But I was feeling a little dissatisfied because I wasn't doing the things that I know I could do. Right? So a lot of times when you see other people and you just like, you know, you got a little stank face. You feel a little about them. Could it be they're doing something that you know that you could do, that you could be doing too? And it's not that you want their life. You just dissatisfied with what you have not done, right? We can't get upset about results we didn't get from work we didn't do. You can't be upset about results you didn't get from the work you didn't do. You got to do your work, right? Because if they can do it, if he can bless them, he can bless you too. Okay? So just check in with these emotions that I just shared with you and do something different. Now that you know, right? You've had this information, because new information requires new decisions. Okay? Don't beat yourself up about what you didn't know, because what you didn't know, you didn't know. But now you have the information. Now you can do it differently. All right? And know that the biggest thing I'm going to tell you, if you want your life to shift, emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is, I would say, is the number one skill, personal development skill that will change your entire life, because it helps you understand your emotions and it helps you, understand your feelings. And we gain the understanding of how they affect our minds and our bodies, and vice versa. Our mind and body and spirit are all connected. Okay, they all affect each other in one way or another. So emotional intelligence, we cannot control other people. We can only control our interactions with them. Okay, and when you have emotional intelligence, there's some conversations you're just not going to entertain. There's some people you probably are not going to be around, because once you gain this, you will know when other people don't have it. It's like, no, they don't have the capacity to have this conversation. That's it. Maybe I don't need to be around them. I'm telling you, once you do your work, you'll be able to know. You will be able to know. A lot of people are angry. There's so many angry people out here, right? And anger is not a bad thing. Anger is an invitation for them to check in. Why am I so mad? Why am I so angry? Let me check in with myself, because it's not about nobody else. You can't do that with nobody else. You can hardly do something with yourself, right? It's hard to do something with you talking about somebody else. So if you find yourself anger, it's a beautiful transformational emotion, right? It's mischaracterized by its shadow, the side aggression, and we try to resist it. It's healthy to be angry, and anger can show us important aspects of who we are and what we care about, right? That's right, Dawn. Be angry, but sin not. Check in. Don't project your anger onto other people, because it's people do it. People do it. Don't project your anger onto nobody else, okay? We got to understand it. Let me check in, because there's something here that I need to. It's trying to show me something. It's trying to show me a boundary. It's trying to show me me. It's not about the other person. It's not about the other person. It's about you. It's about you checking in with you. Okay? Don't project it. Inspect it. Don't project it. Inspect. What is this? Why am I angry? What's happening here? What is this anger trying to tell me? What is it trying to tell me? What is it trying to show me about me? Not about anybody else. Yes, checking in with yourself daily. It's a must. It's a must. Right? If I find myself getting angry, let me check in with me. Not let me project this onto somebody else. Let me cuss them out. Let me say something back to them. No. Let me go check in with me. I can't check nobody else. Who gonna check you, boo? I'm gonna check me. You gotta check you. That's it. That's all I got. I hope this was helpful. I just like understanding your emotions, how to interpret negative emotions. What are they trying to? It's not about getting over them. It's about listening to what they're trying to tell you. It's not about getting over them. It's about listening to what they're trying to tell you. These negative emotions are trying to tell you something. Check in. Your check engine light is on. If you keep driving with that check engine light on, what's going to happen? You're going to be side the road. Your car going to be on the back of somebody's tow truck. So you have to check in. All right? Negative emotions are not about anybody else. It's about you. Check in with you. Okay? We don't go to the next level. We grow to the next level, right? And we grow by learning and unlearning and doing these uncomfortable things, having these uncomfortable conversations, mostly with ourselves. Mostly with ourselves, okay? Some will involve other people, but mostly with ourselves. That's it. I'm complete.